find yourself overeating and never feeling satisfied, always looking for more, 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 then you're probably making one simple mistake with your macronutrients. So, this week, you'll discover the power of protein to help you get out of that overeating cycle and help you feel full for longer. So, welcome to Joyful Eating, episode 199. Oh my goodness, almost at the 200 mark. Okay, so this week we're talking about the power of protein to stop overeating. But before we get to that, the best bite I had, we actually had a class with my Joyful Cooking students and today, and we were doing my 10-minute cheesecake. So I was teaching a framework for making cheesecake literally actually, we didn't time it, but it probably wouldn't have even taken 10 minutes even with me talking and explaining. And so it was like a maple cheesecake. So basically you puree together cream cheese, Philadelphia cream cheese, with some cream to soften it, and then some maple syrup as the sweetness, and then just like put it in a jar or a glass with roast walnuts, or I often use pecans, but I was out of pecans, so we had walnuts, and it was so good. I was like, after the class, I was like, oh, I love my job. I'm so lucky that I get to do things like that. Okay, so our plan for today is first I'm going to share with you my protein story, like how I went on a journey with protein myself, and then why that encourage people to prioritize protein, and encourage you to prioritize protein. And then also we're going to talk about like how to know if you're getting enough protein. And then also we're going to be talking, we'll bring up the yeah, but isn't meat bad for us question, and we'll address that as well. So in terms of my story with protein, basically, as I shared, like it actually was in the like fourth episode of Joyful Eating. So all that time ago, it was called Eat Meat. And basically in that, my journey was that I was kind of in this place where my hair was falling out. I was feeling low energy. I tried, having more iron. I tried supplementing with zinc, and that wasn't helping. And then I heard an interview with Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, and she was talking about that the importance of protein, and particularly as we age. She's actually a geriatrician, and so she studies aging. And she was like, having muscle is the most important. Muscle, she says, muscle is the organ of longevity, and how important it is to have more muscle. And in order to build more muscle, that we need to be eating more protein. And she's like, so many people aren't eating enough protein, and that causes so many health problems like as we age. And so I was like, oh, I was like wondering if but that was me. And so after hearing that, I was like, I'll just do an experiment and see like what would happen, what happens if I do like eat a lot more protein. And so I just did an experiment for a while where I was eating twice as much protein as I had been previously, which ended up like not feeling good and being too much. But what I noticed was that my hair stopped falling out. And I started having more energy, and like I noticed that I was gaining muscle, like, and actually you can't see my muscles, but yeah, like I've never had like my muscles have never been this big. Oh, apart from when I was winemaking and I was lifting barrels all day, every day. But like definitely has a huge impact on muscle development. And I just felt so much better eating more protein. And so since then, I basically haven't looked back. And the other cool thing was, I guess I was a little bit worried about was because I've got diabetes and how the impact of protein on like blood sugar levels, because protein can get converted to glucose, but it didn't have a negative impact there. So it's like sweet. So basically since then I have been eating a lot more protein than I used to. And so why does this work? Like, why is it important to make sure you're getting enough protein? And basically, like, protein is the only macronutrient that we can't store. So we can store fat, as we all know, we can store carbohydrate as glycogen, but we aren't, and we can also convert carbohydrate into fat, but we actually, apart from our skeletal muscle, we don't store protein. And so that's one. So that's one reason. And then the next is that protein is really important for satiety. And there's a theory that's being studied in nutrition at the moment that in actual fact, our bodies aren't looking for like a certain number of calories to fulfill their needs. It's actually the amount of like we're actually looking to get the right amount of protein every day. And so that's why if you're not eating enough protein, yes, you can be eating, whatever carbohydrate, whatever, and you can be eating a lot of food, but you're not feeling satisfied because your body's still looking for the protein. So it's like looking to fill up the protein bucket. And until the protein bucket's full, it doesn't, like it's still looking for more food. And So it's not our calorie requirements that it's looking to fill, it's looking to fill our protein requirements. And there's also like in nutrition already, like as we age, it's known that our protein requirements increase. And there's actually, if you look at the Australian dietary requirements, the guidelines, they actually have like once you, I think it's up for over 65s, they have a different requirement, like different guideline, a higher protein guideline than for people who are younger. And so our protein requirements increase as we age. And I guess the other thing is like if you think about it from a longevity or an evolutionary perspective, which I like to often do, is to think like how have we evolved? Is that like we've evolved to be omnivores, like we've evolved to eat like we've been able to eat plants, but yes, we've also evolved to eat animals, and so we're designed to eat to eat both. And also like that meat is very nutritious. And when I was studying nutrition, like that was kind of surprising, like how many nutrients and micronutrients are available in meat. But of course, by prioritizing protein, you don't have to eat more meat, but that is definitely something that I've chosen to do, and I think it tends to be an easier way to get good quality protein. So how do you know if you're getting enough protein? That is the next question. Now that you know that how important it is, basically, I think like you feel good. Like if you're feeling good about your energy levels are feeling good and your appetite feels in balance, like if you feel like, yeah, I'm not like constantly hungry all the time, then that's a good sign that you're getting enough protein. And the other is to look at your hair and nails. So if you're like, if your hair is like your nails feel like strong, if they're not brittle and they're not breaking easily, if they grow fast, like the speed that your nails grow is another sign that you're getting enough protein. Same with hair. So, because of course, like, hair and nails, like they're not super essential. So if your body's short on protein, it's going to prioritize the other uses for protein rather than growing hair and nails. So if you are getting enough, then you'll find that you have to cut your nails more often and your hair feels thicker. And that's really the best, like they're kind of the external circumstances. So energy levels, appetite, and hair and nails. And then the other thing that you can do to know if you're getting enough is just do an experiment where you increase your protein and see how it feels if you start having more. And just to see how you feel. And if you don't feel any different, then probably where you're at is fine. But if you start to feel better, then that's probably a sign that, yeah, okay, more protein is going to be helpful for you. So yeah, that's the thoughts behind protein and how to know if you're getting enough. And then around this question of like eating meat, because there's so much, information out there at the moment about how eating plants is going to save the planet, and meat's so bad for us. And again, as I said before, like you don't have to eat meat in order to prioritize protein. Like you can get great protein from eggs, you can get great protein from tofu. So you don't need to, and there's so many like, plant-based protein options available. And so you don't have to eat meat if you don't want to. And certainly there are some really strong, compelling ethical reasons to consider not eating meat. But it does make it so much easier. And like if you look at like Gabrielle Land, her example was like to get the same amount of protein, you would need to eat like 6 cups of quinoa as like 150 grams. So what's that in ounces? 5 ounce chicken piece of chicken. Like it's a lot of a lot different amount of food. Um, so yeah, it is much easier to meet your protein requirements if you are including your animal protein in your diet. And you can include both. Like I certainly eat a lot of tofu and I eat a lot of eggs. It's not like I'm only relying on animal protein. And the other thing, like in terms of the environmental perspective, in terms of eating meat, like obviously I'm not an environmental scientist and I don't have any qualifications in that area, but just from a thought experiment perspective, like if we stop overeating, if each of us like eat in balance and we're not overweight and we're not like there wasn't an obesity epidemic, like the amount of resources we would need to feed the planet would be significantly less than when we like where we're at the moment. And so I think that's a bigger opportunity than us like cutting back on our protein intake. So by us being at a healthy weight, that actually is more impactful. And if the total amount of food that we're eating is less, then we're going to have less contribution. So So by eating protein and being satisfied, yes, like that's actually going to be more helpful for the environment like in my brain. But yeah, that's that, like, I think that would have a huge impact. And actually, Gabrielle Lyon, she addressed this, and she said, like, the sugar industry uses just as many resources as meat production. And, so that's all that sugar that we're consuming in, sweetened beverages and, indulgent things that isn't actually nourishing us. That industry there is using just as many resources as meat production. So, like, maybe we should be looking at reducing our sugar intake, rather than having this message that we should be eating less meat. And if you want to learn more about that, I'll share the Gabrielle Lyon interview in the show notes so that you can check that out for yourself. But yeah, a key takeaway today is just, again, like, if you feel like your appetite's not in balance, if you feel like you're struggling around this and your hair and nails aren't great, just do that experiment. Just try eating a little bit more protein, see how it feels. And I guarantee you'll feel better. And yeah, just it feels so much better when you're in that balanced place. Um, so have a fantastic week. Have fun experimenting with eating more protein if you're up for that. And I will see you next week. Okay, bye.